Hello there, hello. Rolly here. Good morning here in the land of Smile. I have a question for us this morning. What is a center of influence? So we'll be talking about the meaning and importance of a center of influence, okay? In just less than an hour, we'll be exploring what it means by a center of influence. And if you can see that on your Facebook, this is live streamed on Facebook and also on YouTube. You can bear with me what it means by this center of influence. Okay. Now, right now, before we go into there, I am here as you see in my screen. Okay. Uh, Look, what we will do first is to explore the expressions center of influence, the singular form from Google today, and the plural form centers of influence from the writings of Ellen G. White to determine what she meant by it about more than 100 years ago. And then, second, we will explore some examples of urban centers of influence funded by the General Conference of the Seventh-Day Adventists. And then, third, we will explore some alternative centers of influence which are not costly but leveraging and even more sustainable. And I believe they can be even much better in applying Christ's method, in mingling with people, the six C's, letter C in mingling with people, applying Christ's method. And at the end of this presentation, I want you to know that I'm looking for leaders for my proposed centers of influence. And if you can identify yourself and I can identify you and classify what kind of center of influence you want, there's a link that I'm giving there. You can fill out the form. Okay. So for this time right now, what is a center of influence? Okay, I was preparing this presentation about 2 hours ago, and I didn't have much time, to arrange all the slides. So we will just go along, as I already said, proceed based on what we have. Okay, and then we will just explore right away what is available online so that it saves time, and also it also saves my bandwidth because I'm using an old computer here, and actually it's not that fast. Okay, and so just to minimize, I should say, the use of bandwidth here, or the use of minimize memory, and so it can still be used. Let us just explore right here in front of your eyes on online some centers of influence. All right. Okay, so let us start right now. An example of a center of influence. Now here, as you see here, from this lawyer's edge. I hope you understand this one. Okay, this is not my website. You can go to thelawyersedge.com. Grow your practice by becoming a center of influence. You see, there's a picture right here of a person surrounded by other persons. So it's a center of influence. Okay, now this is in the context of law, right? Okay, so center of influence defined by this website. This is today, right? What is a center of influence? It says here, let's make this big so you'll be able to see. It's someone who is well known, respected, and trusted in the community, and as a result, has significant influence over the thoughts and actions of others. Okay? Now, from this meaning, a center of influence as an individual. All right? Now, let's go to another one. There's another website here. What is a center of influence? This is from the website, okay, JJD Hieronimo. Okay? So what it means here. All right? A center of influence is someone in your network who understands you, respects, and what you offer, and is connected to others who might benefit from your experience, services, or knowledge. Well, it's the same thing. Okay. Now, if you just, for example, uh, Google center of influence, you will see different images of what center of influence is. Okay, and so here there's the one that I presented to you, and there's another one right here, there's some more, like this picture. Okay, whatever that means. And I think the idea is represented by the pictures in here, uh, which I believe paint 1,000 words more than words. But let us go back to what is meant in here. So, as you see, there's another here by LP Financial LLC, LPL.com. What is a center of influence? Centers, and this is already plural. Centers of influence are well-known, well-connected people or groups. Now there's another meaning, okay? This is the second meaning. One is an individual, now it's grouped, that can enhance our credibility through referrals, testimonials, and word of mouth, okay? Now, what's an example of a center of influence right here? People ask, okay, let me make this big so you really can see more clearly on your screen what is a center of influence and why is this very important, okay? And you see the logo behind me here. There's a logo with me. I'll explain to you. Tent Makers Association in Thailand. Why am I having that logo? I will explain to you later on. But for now, let us find here. What is an example of a center of influence? Centers of influence are typically the main advisors engaged by the end client. Okay, this is another meaning from growth strategy. Okay, how do you find a center of influence right here? Okay, you'll find your center of influence above you in the buying continuum. Okay, a lot of these here. Okay, what is there's another aspect of COI in marketing. They call it like people who work with or around the types of clients you want to serve or who could potentially connect. Okay, it's about people, right? Introduce or refer you to new prospects or streams of business. Okay, now what are the three types of influences? Okay, that's not the one. We will not go into that one. uh, Circle of influences, well, there's a lot, okay? There's a lot. This is what is meant by center of influence the way it is understood today. Now we will go to the Universal Marketing Dictionary about what a center of influence here. It says here it's a method. The center of influence method here is a prospecting method used by salespeople. Look at that. It's more in a business, right? And how center of influence can influence you, bottom line, all right? Okay, now this is what it means, what a center of influence today. It is mostly used by business people. Okay, now we will explore to the writings of Mrs. White what is meant by a center of influence. In here, let us explore first the singular form center of influence. And if you look at the last one here, I explored it already here, the last part, you will see that there are about 53 okay occurrences of center of influence, and I don't think it's enough time for us to explore all of them. We go to the plural centers of influence. It will give us how many? All right, we go to the last one, about 112. All right, double, okay, more than double the occurrences of the first one. So let us go first to the singular center of influence and see what it means. How Mr. classifies that. But based on my preliminary survey before, a center of influence can be an individual, can be a small group, and can be what later on when I will tell you there are bigger centers of influence. Here, let us explore what is meant by center of influence. Okay, this is from the councils to parents and teachers and students. Okay, here it says, let me make it big to you. Okay, Satan was determined to oppose. He decided to live or for herself. He sought to make himself a center of influence. In other words, this is the context. A center of influence can be an individual. Like in this case, it was Satan who sought to become a center of influence. Let's go to the next one here. Mind Personality, which is volume 2, page 566. In here, what does it mean here? Again, it's about Satan becoming himself a center of influence. We go to the occurrence 3, all right? Okay, what about here from the principles of Christian leaders? What is the center of influence? Okay, every individual is striving to become a center of influence. Look, it can be an individual center of influence. And until God works for his people, okay, they will not see this word in whatever context they have. There's another one. Let's go to occurrence 4. We will just get some of the occurrences here. From selected messages, book 3, page 20, it says here, we have need to of divine illumination. Every individual is striving to become, yes, as an individual center of influence. And then we go to number 5 here, a center of influence. This is talking about Satan again, all right, because it's his rebellion in heaven. And then let's go to number 6. Yeah, okay, about Satan again. Number 7, about an individual center of influence. Okay, all right. And then what about number 9? This seems to be a different kind of center of influence here. Okay, still individual. It seems like most of the center of influence being mentioned by Mrs. White in the first page here, the few occurrences is I should say an individual center of influence, the way it was defined by the first meaning that we've got. Okay, each individual will strive to become a center of influence for himself. All right. Okay. And so it says here, until the Holy Spirit is accepted and allowed to do his office work upon the heart, each individual will strive to become a center of influence. Unknowingly or knowingly, we've been doing ourselves, making ourselves as a center of influence to our friends on Facebook, social media, or whatever that is. Now, this is from the General Conference Daily Bulletin, 1897, paragraph 1. Okay, again, it's talking about an individual center of influence. All right, it seems like if we use the singular form center of influence, it refers to an individual center of influence. Okay, but I think here the 13th occurrence is a different meaning. Look at that. So we explored 1 to 12. There's an individual center of influence, but this one here, this is the context. Right, important center of influence, from his many well-trained medical missionaries shall go forth with a message of mercy. Now, this is no longer an individual. Okay, let's read the whole paragraph here. I hope that this property which you have described, which seems to have been brought with you, reached by the providence of God, will become the means of strengthening the work in Florida, and that it will become a center of influence. What is that? Property. Okay, from the first definition of an individual center of influence, now it has become a property. All right, like a project. Okay, a property, a property. Okay, now in this case, it is a medical right, well trained, like a school, which many well trained medical missionaries shall go forth with a message. It seems to be here, it's not so clear what it means, either a hospital or a sanitarium, or as a missionary, a medical missionary school. But as long as now the second meaning is not an individual, but rather a property, or perhaps an institution. And we go to number 14. This is again about, you will see, it's about Satan becoming himself the center of influence in heaven. All right, now 15, the Review and Herald. Okay, here he would be the center of influence. He was talking about Satan again. Look at that. Center of influence here most likely is talking about Satan as an individual. But let us be careful here. It's the same sense with the 16. The Holy Spirit is division with everyone. Okay. And then the days of 17 is another meaning of a center of influence. Look at that. In the days of the apostles, Jerusalem was a great center of influence. Look, we have another meaning of a center of influence. There was an individual center of influence, there was a property, and now this is already a city or a country. The Jerusalem was a great center of influence. Okay? That is the third meaning that we've got, right? I thought there are 3, but there seems to be more. Okay, and now, a center of influence. Now, what is here? Occurrence number 18. What is meant by here? Okay, it is important. It is so important, a center of influence. We need men who talk courage and faith, men who never become discouraged. What is it here? The first paragraph. For the accomplishment of the work that should be done in Nashville, the best talent is needed in so important a center of influence. Now it's becoming a work. It means our work. The fourth meaning now can be a center of influence, like what Mrs. White did before in in her time in Nashville. Okay, that is the fourth meaning now, all right? You can now, what about here? It is inside rebellion in heaven. Okay, it's so clear that it is Satan, important center of influence. Now we go to, let us explore more. Okay, number two. What is number two here? I should say in the next line of these occurrences, Jerusalem. We have that already. Every so influence in our work should be the best spiritual experience. Okay, this is from the selections of testimonies to the managers and works in our institution. What does it mean? Connected with every center of influence in our work, there should be the spiritual experience. Look at that. The meaning now has become a lot better. That the center of influence should be a center for spiritual experience. That is the mark of the Holy Spirit's guidance. Okay? So, in other words, Mrs. White was not talking about the kind of centers of influence they use for business sake, but in her time, it is to be used for spiritual purposes. Okay? And so now it's the fourth meaning now. It's the fifth. Help me count it. Okay, the importance, center of influence, a great center of influence, Jerusalem. Okay, yeah. Again, 25 as an influence. About some are just repeated. Works with people. They will not see the subordination. Yeah, we read that already. As an influence, a birth rebellion in heaven is Satan again. All right. Okay. The publishing house, a center of influence. Look at that. The publishing house can be a center of influence. All right. It is not just individual. It is not just a property. It is not just I should say here, even like a publishing house, a center of influence. Now, in other words, center of influence is anything or any individual that can be used to influence, all right? But in the writings of Mrs. White, it is more of a spiritual purpose here, okay? More of for the purpose of, you know, uh, propagating the message. Well, am I making it up? Well, I want to read it to you. Rather, you see it in your own eyes, rather from me, from myself, okay? Satan, Jerusalem, center of influence. Okay, mostly it's more on, if it is singular center of influence, it's most likely like individual. But we already have explored four meanings of centers of influence. Okay, the works, the center of influence. What is it, the center of influence in number 34? That is explore again. Opportunity was then given for a worker printed to be wrought not in abuse of your corner, but at the center of influence. Okay. What is that? The work. Many fail to improve. Opportunity given to repent the work. First, I'm not very sure what it meant here. Opportunity was then given for a work of repentance to be wrought, not in obscure corner, but at the center of influence. In other words, God's work can be a center of influence, which should not be hidden, but a center, like visible. All right? Okay? Visibility. It's another kind of meaning. It's not, number 5, number 6 already. Help me count it. All right? Okay, here. A work is a reformatory work. Here, what is the page 30, number 37? Is it the one that we read? I am not surprised at what you write me concerning Glendale, this institution so near to a center of influence. Okay, now it can be an institution. Now, number 6, number 7th meaning now. Okay? Now, I think it's enough for us to explore. There are 40, as I should say, about 50 of them. Okay, every center of influence in our work should there be the spiritual experience. Okay, now we'll go to the plural soon, the plural form. But before that, I think Satan's desire to be center of influence. Okay, in other words, there's a negative meaning of a center of influence. There's a positive meaning. When it is used by Satan, the meaning means negative, which is more of selfishness, self-centeredness. Okay, a kind of a center of influence in his case. But it can be used also in a good sense with this, if it is a center of influence for the message, for the work, like an institution, okay, or a project or a property. Satan make himself since self as the center of influence. So this should not be. We should not make ourselves as the center of influence for self sake. But for Christ's sake, that's okay. For God's sake, that's okay. Okay. Well, the Bible is so clear on that. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify our Father in heaven. That is, in a sense, it's not word for word, but the meaning is a center of influence, a center of himself. Okay. Some people may misunderstand us. If we have to show something and they see us rather than God, and misconstrue or misunderstand us like we are making ourselves at the center of influence. Not actually. I don't like to read people's motive. Let us read this one here. Could be the center of influence for British Empire. What is it? What is it? Let us read the whole passage here. Okay. I have seen that coming in different ways during the last few moments. You see how reasons looks at it. Living in London, okay, with 6 million people in that one city, and in country which you can ride across in 4 hours and hardly be out of sight of a town of all the time. How could I reason that Australasia, with only 3 million people, could be? Oh, now this is another meaning of a center of influence. Australasia, is it what? Is it a city? I think this is not a country. Australasia, a continent. Okay? You see that? That's the number 7 or 8 meaning already. All right. Apply math, a center of influence. Okay. Now it seems that Mrs. White has a wider meaning of what a center of influence is during her time than what it is today. Okay, the General Conference Bulletin, we are to come in contact with people. What is a center of influence in a new place? Okay, look at her counsel here. W.C. White, the fact has been made plain to us by experience and by counsel that when we establish a center of influence in a new place, we are to come in contact with the people in just as many ways as we can in a way to do them good. That we are not to build up walls about us to cut us from the contact. In other words, a center of influence that we will be putting up in a new place should be connecting with the local people. Now the meaning is a lot clearer now. Therefore, when we establish a new place, we have facilities with men which can be do some commercial work to advantage. Look at that. Commercial work, it means business work. It is right for us to do it well and show that Christian principles can be brought into commercial enterprises. Is it clear now what Mrs. White meant by it? But that is all secondary to something else. What is primary? Our first effort is to print and to circulate present truth and get the people to read and believe and to live it. In other words, a center of influence is just only a means for a better end. A better end here is the one, God's work of propagating the gospel, circulating the present truth to people. That is what is meant. Okay? Look at it, and from the proper perspective, a center of influence is only a tool. All right? It's only a tool for the gospel. What is meant by here. Okay? That is on the General Conference, her paper, and center of influence, the conference, possibly the conference track societies. Okay, this is about printing also. Now we have explored all the occurrences of singular center of influence. Now we'll go to the plural. Centers of influence. What she meant by that, and we saw there that as we saw already a while ago, that there are about 112 occurrences of the plural centers of influence. And what she meant by that, we'll go to the first one here. New centers of influence. Christian Service, page 183. Okay, this was written a long time ago here. To establish new centers of influence. What does it mean here? Let forces be set to work to clear new ground, to establish new centers of influence wherever an opening can be found. Look at that. All right. It means even 100 years ago, we are to, they were, and right now we are to establish new centers of influence. Okay. All right. Rally workers who possess true missionary zeal and let them go forth to diffuse light and knowledge far and near. All right. What is meant here? Prepare workers to get out into the highways and hedges. We need wise nurserymen who will transplant trees to different localities and give them advantages that they may grow. It is a positive duty of God's people to go into these regions beyond. And in that kind of line of working, here we are to establish new centers of influence. In other words, the centers of influence that are in the time of Mrs. White more than 100 years ago, they are to be used for God's work. They are not just centers of influence themselves, all right, but they really are to be used. What about here? Councils and diets and food. What does it say here? New centers of influence. Okay, here. It is a positive duty of God's people to go into the regions beyond. Let forces be set at work to clear new ground, to establish new centers of influence wherever an opening can be found. Okay, it's about the same, I should say, the same quotation with the different, with slight, modification here. Centers of influence and training. What does it mean? This is 1912, more than 100 years ago, right? More than 100 and what is it 111 years ago, the Lord has, or 12 years ago, 11 years ago, 111 years ago, the Lord has ordained that sanitariums, okay, sanitariums like hospitals, but in their time sanitarium is a little bit, different from the hospitals today, be established in many places to stand as memorials for him. Okay, look at that. Center of influence is in the writings of Mrs. White is used for God's glory. This is one of his chosen ways of proclaiming the third angel's messages. I should say, as I already said, it's a means toward a better end. But this means that the truth will reach many. Okay, now you can read more of that, what is meant by center of influence in the context. In here, sanitariums are centers of influence. All right, okay, so it can be anything. It can be anything as long as it is for God's glory. Any individual, institution, even place or city or country, or anything can be used for God's glory, for his work. That is a center of influence in here, if it is influencing other people for the gospel's sake. All right, councils on health. What does it mean here? Center of influence in southern cities. Okay, here shall be centers of influence. Look, we must do more than we have done to reach the people of our cities. Okay, it means center of influence are used for reaching out the people of the cities. We are not to erect large buildings in the cities, but over and over again the light has been given me that we should establish in all our cities small plants which shall be centers of influence. Oh, small plants. Why is that? Why is that? Small plants as centers of influence, like small projects. I think the idea is becoming clearer now, or I'd like to listen more of what she said, because I don't like to make mistakes in putting up centers of influence which are not directive of her or not directed by her. Okay? We rather listen to how to put up a center of influence. I'm running out of time. I have a meeting at 9:30. It's 9:12 now. Let us read more. Okay? Councils on health. Let centers of influence be made in the southern cities by the opening of food stores. Food stores, vegetarian restaurants can be centers of influence. All right? Create centers of influence here. Number 6, in the large cities, or interested workers will be led to offer themselves for various lines of missionary effort, like restaurants here. You can read more. I don't need to read more on that. We already got the idea. Create centers of influence in large cities. Now look at that. In other words, centers of influence are even best for large cities. Establish centers of influence in places where nothing or next to nothing has been done. Break up your consolidated mass. Diffuse the living. Okay. Look at that. These centers of influence men who could do a larger and more important work in the public platform. Okay. In presenting before unbelievers the truths. There is a power of putting up center of influence. All right. Where it is needed. Okay. Now, okay, here. There is constant necessity of guarding against the tendency to tie up at these centers of influence men who could do a larger and more important work in the public platform in presenting before unbelievers the truth of God's word. Sometimes there are some countries in which it's not easy to, especially cities, to present the truth, and so by putting up centers of influence like projects or education or anything, can be businesses, for propagation of God's work, then these people would come and listen to to us about the gospel. Where opening can be found here. It's an influence in large cities. Yeah, in large cities. Okay, now I think it's enough. Large cities, influence in large cities. There are a lot of them. There are 100 of them. Now that we know about a center of influence, okay. Now that we know, let us explore urban center of influence by the Seventh-Day Adventist Church. We have here urban centers of influence, and this is actually done by or initiated or spearheaded by the Adventist Mission, the partner of the General Conference of the Seventh-Day Adventist Church. And we have here, this is it. Look, okay, here is the website. Centers Adventist Mission, the Seventh-Day Adventist Church. Okay, centers of influence are currently being established in cities around the world. All right, and this is headed by the Dr. Gary Krause, Adventist Mission Director. All right, now you can read more about that, and in here at the bottom you can hear it's a springboard for urban mission. Okay, now these are what are they here? Let's go to the website, Center of Influence, in here. All right, this is an example. This one is from Tokai Christian Center in Brazil. All right, what is it, Tokai Christian Center in Brazil? Let's understand what it means here. Tokai Christian Center in Brazil. Look at that. A center of influence, trained at former karaoke entertainment center to evangelize Japan. Can you imagine? Brazilians train at former karaoke entertainment center. Okay, it becomes a center of influence to evangelize Japan right here. This is in Japan. Let's have another one for us to really explore what are these. This is in Vietnam. Okay, here Vietnam's first urban center, Opus. Oh, this one was established, was put up. First urban center of influence opens in Vietnam. It's the look at that. The capital is $2 million. All right. Oh, this is the one. Like there are several floors. Okay. A seed is planted. That is the one in a country in which, a majority are not Christians, and this is the best way to do that. Well, you can read more about that. I'm giving you some examples of centers of influence, and then I will zero into some alternative center of influence which are not really as expensive as this one. This is was a video about, it cannot be, this seems to be not working anymore. This is Haifa, Hope, Life and Hope Center of Influence. Go to Bronx Food Pantry. 20 years ago, a nurse in New York City began sharing her own food with people, the project has grown to serve 7,000 people, extremely poor people. All right, this is the woman. She made herself a center of influence, okay, for poverty. All right. I wish I could show you this here, but look, we don't need to finish here. So 20 years ago, it's a woman right here. Now, that is the idea. We'll explore more. Center of influence. So you will have an idea what a center of influence is. All right, here. Institutional wellness on the go. Watch the video again. On the go. This is on the go van. It's a van in New York. In New York. Okay. Look again. What it is here. Let's go farther. I don't have time to go more onto that. Uh, this one. All right. But the idea is that in the introduction here, a wellness on the go van is a van. A vehicle. We are thinking of putting up also like distribution. I should say literature distribution van. I thought it was impossible. There's an offering, another set of influence, the Life Hope Center. Approach, what does it mean here? There are several centers of influence here. Okay. All right. It can be like this. Okay. Center of influence. A place or, okay, Life Hope Center in Trinidad. All right. I think we have here in Thailand a Good Samaritan Inn. Okay. Revive Cafe. Look at that. Revive Cafe can be a center of influence. It can be Adventist Learning Center, It can be Harvest Adventist Learning Center, open for all. What is that one? Welcome Babies, Vertical. Well, I'm just browsing this one because I only have less than 10 minutes time left. Okay. First Cafe. I attended a 24/7 in 2019 or 2020 November 20. I think it's in November 20. I believe it's in 2020. Let me by Hive International. Let me go here. Hive International. Okay, Center of Influence. Okay, this is the website. Hive International. Uh, that time I had a training on that one. Here, they are the ones super hitting. At that time, it was I should say that time they had a seminar about putting up centers of influence, and it was sponsored by Adventist Mission also, and Adventist Review. Okay, empowering Adventist entrepreneurship. All right, yeah, entrepreneurship in here. I would want you to actually visit this one. They are the ones like with the A is I also. They're working together with Adventist Church. They are supporting missionaries. Yeah, Adventist Review, sponsored by Adventist Review. Also, in the Global Mission Centers, they're working together. And the training there, they're about coaching. I had that training. It's really wonderful. I hope you have that. Now, it seems that there are small businesses actually, which are for the purpose of for propagating the gospel. Now I have little time left. Now, what it means, there is a way of submitting center of influence. If you go to the website, there's a process how to get started, and we started it submitting a proposal to the local mission that was not never heard of. There's some qualification. They will fund the Seventh-Day Adventist Church has actually. I don't need to go into details with application because I had it already. They fund seed money about $1 million released by the Adventist Church yearly to the center of influence. You have to apply what kind of budget you have. You have to make a proposal. It was passed about more than a year ago, 2 years ago, but it was never heard of. It didn't come to us. And so because of that, we don't wait for them anymore for this costly small business centers of influence. And as you know, small centers businesses like a small business will close in less than 5 years. Small business, okay, will close in less less than 5 years. In less than, look at that, business will close in less than 10 years. If your center of influence is small, you'll be in trouble. Your center of influence should be big, or it has the capacity to multiply and become big, because if it is not, then it will not survive in 10 years. That is why we saw some videos there not operating anymore, and I believe the GC is updating. Now, what am I here? As you see here, what am I doing here? As you see, okay, as you see in my look, and you see here, Tent Makers Association in Thailand. Why is that? Well, it's because on January 7, 2023, here, Dr. Abner Dizon, the director of SS Interfaith Services Director, went to Asia Pacific, okay, International University, and gave us some seminar about tent making. Okay, that's a self-supporting ministry, and we put up a tent makers association among missionaries. and each one is given this logo. I am a tent maker. All right. And then, yeah, we have these officers elected, and I am the president. All right. But we need to understand what it means for that. Okay. So they were attended by about 74 people. All right. And so we organized. But right now, it's been several months, and we are in a challenge how to go forward because we need to work with the local leadership here of the Talent Adventist mission. Okay, these are the ones. Okay, the tent makers. We can expand more on that, who they are, as you see on your screen. Okay, all right. The important thing here is from there on, what are we to do? Okay, and so I have also we have also a website, a page for the Tent Makers Association in Thailand, and even I have this. I should say here. Uh, I also have my own page for Centers of Influence, right here. Okay, Centers of Influence. All right, right. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay, where is it? See page. This is the one. Centers of Influence with Pastor Rowley. And then what are we to do from now on? Now I have 5 minutes. I have to end this one in 5 minutes. What are we to do? As a tent maker, I am glad I am a tent maker. A tent maker here in is a modern terminology, which means that I am no longer salaried by tithes and offerings of Talent Adventist Mission. And I am glad that I am a tent maker is because, you know, uh, we can do more that typical salaried, tight salaried pastor missionary is not able to do. And how am I doing it? Here, if you go to my site right here, look, I am not, as you see here in Facebook, I am not confused of my, look at that, okay? I am not confused of my calling, not that I am a tent maker. We are to use our occupation as a platform for mission. All right, okay, here. And so how I do tent making, I have some alternatives. We are putting up with the talent uh, tent makers association, like putting up some, we have some project we are thinking and planning about, putting up centers of influence for teachers. Okay, but there are a lot of ways that you can be an individual center of influence, but it's better to have, sustainable. And I believe the alternative that I want here, that I'm proposing here, a lot better. For example, you can have a center of influence. It can be a group, a small group. You can also use it from, for example, for, I should say here, let me make this big. Okay, you can put up a center of influence from, I should say, the budget, like 20% of your budget, and you can do like saving and investing. You know, this center of influence, this, you are given a capacity to make you and your group a center of influence, and this has been going on for more than 21 years already. Now they practice the 10-20-70-70 financial rule by Bo Sanchez. In here, and you have your own center of influence, you can customize it. All right, like IMG is giving you, I should say, this is the company of IMG hosting a lot of other investment companies. All right, in healthcare and income protection, and even like yesterday it was like estate planning, retirement planning, a lot of them. So 20% of your income can be used for center of influence in this area. But the one that I am also, another one that I'm doing is the second one, which is even a lot bigger and even more worldwide. All right, in 100 countries. Like, you can use your expenditure, your expenditure can be converted into an asset, and that can be used as center of influence also when you run your own organization. It can be like a franchise, like, and it has the capacity to run even more. Why? Because it's been going on for more than 63 years already. It's been proven by them They are not, they are doing their own center of influence, you know. And when you go to Ecclesiastes 11:2, invest what you have into several different businesses, because you don't know what disasters may happen. A missionary, if you look at it from the right perspective, you know, has to understand this one. Most people who are employee, you know, the mindset is employee, cannot understand this one. Whose mindset is into, you know, the values into employment. But never mind, the important thing is we are looking for people whose mindset is really doing centers of influence for God's work. And if that is your mindset, all right, and that is your mindset, I encourage you, okay, to click the link. There's a link right there, okay. Click the link. For example, we'll go to this one. I'll show you where's the link. You click the link in this website here. Oh, wait. That is not the one, because here. Click the link that I gave you here. All right. Here. This is for missionaries. Okay, click the link right here in this one. This is pinned in my account. Click the link and I will give you a 5-minute plan or even more. And so I can determine which center of influence that you need. All right. I think that's for today, because it's already time. We'll see you next time. If you have more questions, just post below or message me privately how to do centers of influence. We have several kinds. All right. God bless you. God bless you.